What if I told you that in the middle of the American desert, far from any city lights, a group of ordinary travelers stumbled onto something so terrifying and extraordinary that the government itself would later try to erase every trace of it? This isn't just another campfire story. This is about a night where human beings came face to face with beings not from this earth, beings who weren't here to conquer, but to escape. And the strangest part? They weren't running from us. They were running from something else. It started in late summer of 1997, not far from the Nevada-Arizona border. For friends in their late 20s, Mark, a war veteran turned mechanic, his younger sister Emily, a grad student in astrophysics, their childhood friend Jake, who made his living filming odd documentaries, and Sophia, a travel nurse with a love for the open road, had decided to drive cross-country in an old but sturdy RV. They wanted adventure, isolation, the kind of landscapes where silence weighs on your chest. They found exactly that, but they also found something they were never supposed to see. Around midnight on the third night of their trip, while parked near a dry lake bed, Jake noticed something strange in the sky through his handheld camcorder. At first it looked like a plane, blinking faintly, moving slowly, almost hesitating. But then it darted across the horizon in a way no aircraft should be able to move, stopping suddenly, hovering, then shifting again with impossible speed. Mark, the veteran, muttered that no jet he'd ever seen could behave like that. They all watched, transfixed, as the object suddenly descended, not crashing, but landing, behind a ridge no more than a mile away. Adrenaline took over. Jake insisted they had to go see it. Emily argued they should keep their distance, and Mark said flatly, "If that's military, we're already in trouble." In the end, curiosity won. They packed flashlights, Sophia grabbed the med kit, and Jake carried his camera, determined to film whatever they were about to find. The desert was cold at night, and the silence was eerie as they hiked toward the ridge. Every crunch of gravel under their boots sounded like a gunshot. When they reached the top, they looked down into the shallow basin and froze. Sitting there, half buried in sand, was a craft about the size of a bus. It wasn't burning, but glowing faintly, like heat shimmering above asphalt. The shape wasn't a saucer, nor a rocket. It was stranger, almost organic, with surfaces that seemed to ripple even when still. Then they saw movement. 3 figures staggered out from an opening in the craft. At first, Emily thought they were people in suits, until one collapsed to its knees and the others helped it up, revealing long, spindly arms, elongated heads, and eyes that reflected the moonlight like pools of oil. They weren't attacking. They weren't threatening. They looked wounded, terrified. Sophia whispered, "Oh my God, they're hurt." And before anyone could stop her, she started scrambling down the ridge toward them with her medical bag. Mark cursed under his breath, but followed, his protective instincts kicking in. Emily and Jake hesitated, torn between fear and the magnetic pull of the impossible. Up close, the beings were unlike anything they'd seen in movies. Their skin was pale, almost translucent, veins faintly glowing beneath. They emitted faint clicking sounds, rapid and rhythmic, like they were trying to communicate. But what shook the travelers most was their expressions, or what felt like expressions. Fear, desperation, pleading. Sophia knelt beside the one who had collapsed, checking its body with trembling hands. Its chest rose and fell erratically, as though breathing air was a struggle. Emily noticed burns along its limbs, the kind you'd expect from electrical discharge. When Sophia pressed a stethoscope to its chest, she gasped. It had a heartbeat. Faint, but real. "They're alive," she whispered. "They're alive like us." Before they could process it, a deep rumble echoed in the distance. At first, they thought it was thunder, but then came the low chop of helicopters. Black silhouettes crossed the moon, moving fast, sweeping toward the basin. Mark stiffened. Military. They're coming for them. The aliens panicked, clicking frantically, clutching at the travelers as though begging for protection. One of them pressed something cold and metallic into Jake's hand. A small, smooth object, no bigger than a lighter, pulsing with dim blue light. Jake stared, realizing this was no accident. They had chosen him. Searchlights from the helicopters slashed across the desert, illuminating the basin. The roar grew deafening. Mark shouted, "We need to move now." Sophia screamed that they couldn't just leave the beings behind. Emily grabbed Jake's arm, shaking him. "They'll kill us all if we stay." In that instant, the four friends faced a choice: save themselves, or help the beings who had crashed, not to invade, but to escape something even worse. And what none of them knew yet was that the object in Jake's hand carried the key to understanding everything. Who these beings were, why they were on Earth, and what they were running from. And that night, in the desert silence shattered by helicopters and floodlights, the line between witness and participant blurred forever. The moment the first searchlight swept across the ridge, the desert turned into a battlefield of fear and instinct. Dust blasted into the air from the downdraft of helicopter blades, and the strange craft below let out a low, resonant hum, as if it sensed danger too. Mark grabbed Emily's arm and pulled her into the shadow of a rock outcrop. "Stay low. Don't let them see you," he hissed. Jake clutched the glowing object in his hand so tightly that it left imprints on his skin. Sophia, refusing to abandon the injured being, shielded it with her body as the other two aliens pulled closer, their huge black eyes reflecting pure terror. From above came the bark of amplified voices. "This is a restricted area. Remain where you are." A spotlight locked onto the basin, illuminating the travelers and the beings together in a single, impossible tableau. For one breathless second, everyone froze. Aliens, humans, and soldiers. Then chaos erupted. Ropes dropped from the helicopters, and armed men in black tactical gear began descending. Mark instantly recognized the posture, the weapons. "Special ops," he muttered, more to himself than the others. His instincts screamed to fight, but he knew a firefight here would be suicide. One of the beings clicked sharply, then touched the strange pulsing object in Jake's hand. Immediately, Jake felt a wave of images crash into his mind. Not words, not language, but visions. A dark void, a massive shape hunting through space, the beings fleeing across galaxies, their craft tearing apart as they entered Earth's atmosphere. Then a single clear message formed: "Hide us. Protect us." Jake stumbled back, gasping, his mind reeling. The object stopped glowing. He realized the aliens had given him not just a device, but responsibility. Sophia screamed as one of the soldiers leveled a rifle toward the beings. Without thinking, Mark stepped forward, putting himself between the soldier and the creatures. "They're not hostile," he shouted, his voice cracking in the rotor wash. "They need help." The soldier's response was cold and mechanical. "Step aside. This is national security." Emily yanked on Mark's sleeve, but before she could pull him away, the injured alien emitted a piercing shriek, so loud and high-pitched it rattled their bones. The hum from the craft intensified, its surface shifting, glowing brighter. Lights shot out like veins of electricity running across its hull. The soldiers flinched, their aim faltering. "Move," Mark bellowed, grabbing Sophia by the wrist. Together, the four travelers and the three beings darted toward the ridge. Bullets cracked into the sand around them, tracers slicing the darkness. Jake clutched the object to his chest, every nerve on fire. The aliens, though weak, moved with surprising speed when desperate, almost gliding across the ground. At the top of the ridge, Emily nearly lost her footing, tumbling on loose gravel. Mark hauled her up, adrenaline giving him strength he didn't know he had. Behind them, the basin lit up with gunfire as soldiers tried to surround the craft. But something extraordinary happened. The ship reacted. Without anyone inside, it released a pulse of blue energy that knocked men off their ropes and sent helicopters swaying violently in the air. The sound was like thunder cracking open the desert. The group scrambled down the far side of the ridge, lungs burning. The aliens' clicking grew faster, almost frantic. Jake realized they weren't just afraid of the soldiers. They were afraid of being found. By what, he didn't know. But the urgency in their sounds was unmistakable. Finally, they reached the cover of the dry riverbed where their RV was parked. Sophia shoved the injured being inside first, then helped the others clamber in. Mark jumped into the driver's seat, turning the ignition with shaking hands. "Everyone hold on," he growled, slamming the gas. The RV roared to life, headlights cutting through the night. They sped across the desert, bouncing violently over rocks and sand. Helicopters swung around, beams of light chasing them. Gunfire sparked against the metal siding of the RV. Emily ducked low, screaming. Sophia knelt beside the collapsed alien, checking its pulse, whispering frantic reassurances as though it could understand. Jake sat against the wall, staring at the object glowing faintly again in his hands. He remembered the visions, something massive, something that hunted. It wasn't the soldiers they should fear most. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, they left the basin behind. The helicopters seemed to pull back, as if ordered not to stray too far from the craft. Mark didn't let up on the gas until the desert gave way to a lonely stretch of highway. The RV rattled forward into the darkness. Inside, the air was thick with fear and the scent of burned metal from the alien's wounds. Emily broke the silence first. "Mark, what did we just do? Do you have any idea what this means?" Mark gripped the wheel, knuckles white. "It means we just put ourselves on a list. Whatever agency those guys work for, they're not going to stop coming." Jake finally spoke, his voice low, haunted. "They weren't lying. They're running. I saw it, something chasing them through space. Something worse than the people we just escaped." Sophia's hands shook as she pressed gauze to the alien's burns. "If what you're saying is true, then this isn't just about us. It's about whatever's coming next." The RV's headlights cut through the lonely road ahead, but no one felt safe. Every sound in the night made their nerves jump. And in the back, the beings huddled together, clicking softly, their enormous eyes fixed on Jake, as if they knew the fate of all of them now rested in his hands. The highway stretched endlessly, a ribbon of cracked asphalt cutting through the barren desert. The RV's headlights carved a narrow path forward, but the night around them felt endless, suffocating. Inside, no one spoke for a long while. The only sounds were the engine's strained hum, Sophia's hurried whispers as she tended the injured being, and the occasional soft clicking from the aliens huddled in the back. Finally, Emily broke the silence. "We can't just keep driving. They'll track us. They probably already have." Mark grunted, eyes locked on the road. "Yeah, but stopping is worse. We need distance. Time." Jake sat by the small table, staring at the object pulsing faintly in his palm. Each glow felt alive, almost like a heartbeat. He hadn't told the others everything about the visions. It wasn't just shapes and terror. There had been flashes of stars collapsing, ships ripped apart, entire worlds silenced. He couldn't put it into words, not without sounding insane. The alien nearest him leaned forward, its skeletal fingers reaching out. It touched the object lightly, and instantly Jake's vision blurred. His surroundings dissolved. He saw Earth, floating blue and fragile in the void. Then shadows approached. A colossal, insect-like silhouette, its surface bristling with spines, moving with dreadful grace. The alien's craft fleeing desperately, torn apart by unseen weapons. A single phrase echoed in his mind again, clearer this time. "Hunters. They found us." Jake jerked back, gasping, nearly dropping the object. His skin crawled with dread. He looked at Emily, who was watching him with wide eyes. "You saw something, didn't you?" she asked softly. Before he could answer, headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. Mark cursed under his breath. A convoy of black SUVs was racing down the highway, closing the gap fast. "They found us already?" Emily cried. "Of course they did," Mark growled, slamming his foot on the gas. The RV shuddered, engine straining, but it wasn't built for speed. The SUVs, sleek and powerful, began gaining. The aliens reacted first. The injured one weakly raised its hand, pressing against the RV's wall. A faint shimmer spread across the metal, like ripples of liquid light. Suddenly, the headlights of the pursuing SUVs flickered, then went black. Engines sputtered. Tires squealed as the vehicles swerved wildly, some skidding off the road. Sparks erupted in the dark as one crashed into another. Emily gasped, twisting in her seat. What the hell did they just do? Jake's hands trembled. They shut them down, like flipping a switch. Mark kept driving, but the relief didn't last long. Above them, a faint drone grew louder. A surveillance drone, its red eye blinking as it tracked them. "We're not shaking that thing," Mark muttered. Then, unexpectedly, the glowing object in Jake's hand pulsed again. This time, it projected a faint holographic map above the table. Stars, coordinates, shifting lines that Emily immediately recognized. "Oh my God," she whispered, leaning closer. "That's not random. That's a star chart. They're showing us where they came from." She pointed to one of the highlighted systems, her voice trembling. This isn't anywhere near Earth. This is thousands of light years away." The alien clicked rapidly, its eyes locking onto Jake, then Emily, as though begging them to understand. Suddenly, the hologram shifted. Earth appeared again, marked with a glowing red signal. Then, slowly, another signal pulsed, approaching. Whatever they had been fleeing, it was on its way here. The RV jolted violently as something exploded behind them. The drone overhead had launched a small missile, striking the asphalt just yards away. Mark swerved, tires screaming. "Hold on," he shouted. The aliens reacted once more. This time, a surge of energy burst from the object in Jake's hand, shooting upward through the RV's roof. The drone above sparked, spun out of control, and crashed into the desert with a fiery bloom. The RV fell silent again, save for their ragged breathing. Emily clutched her head, overwhelmed. "We're in way over our heads. This isn't just about helping them. This is about stopping whatever's coming." Sophia looked down at the injured alien, its chest rising shallowly. "They trusted us. They gave us this thing because they had no one else." Jake swallowed hard, staring at the faintly glowing object. His mind was racing, torn between terror and awe. If what I saw is real, if those hunters are coming here, then we're not saving just them. We might be saving ourselves too. Mark kept his eyes on the empty road, but his voice was grim. "First, we need to get out of their reach. Government, military, whoever they are, they'll kill us before they let us talk." The night stretched on as the RV barreled deeper into the wilderness. Every mile they gained felt like stolen time. Behind them, the desert burned with wreckage. Ahead of them, an unknown future loomed, one where 4 ordinary travelers had become guardians of fugitives from another world. And in Jake's trembling hands, the small glowing object pulsed again, as though reminding them. The clock was already ticking. The RV finally gave out near dawn. Its engine coughed, sputtered, and died in the middle of nowhere. No highway, no towns, only the jagged silhouettes of desert cliffs. Mark coasted it into the shadow of a canyon wall, killed the lights, and sat in silence. All of them were exhausted, faces pale, nerves shredded. Emily pressed her forehead to the window, watching the first hints of sunrise creep over the horizon. "We can't run forever," she whispered. "No," Mark agreed grimly. "But maybe we don't have to." Jake sat at the small table, the glowing object in his hands. Its pulses had become steadier, almost rhythmic. The aliens huddled near him, their clicking low and mournful. Sophia was still tending the injured one, who was barely conscious now, its chest rising and falling with shallow, labored breaths. She brushed sweat-damp hair from her face and looked at Jake. "Whatever that thing is, it's the key. They gave it to you for a reason. Figure it out." Jake stared at the object, heart pounding. "I don't even know how." Emily sat beside him, her scientific mind pushing past fear. "It responds to you. To your thoughts, maybe. Try focusing. Think of what we need most." Closing his eyes, Jake thought about survival, about escape, about answers. The object warmed in his palm, and then, suddenly, the air above the table filled with a blinding projection. A vast, star-filled void shimmered, and from it emerged a monstrous silhouette. All of them gasped. It was the same thing Jake had seen in fragments before, colossal, insect-like, its carapace jagged, its many eyes glowing red. It drifted through space with terrifying purpose, tearing apart a smaller ship with one strike. The aliens recoiled, their clicking becoming frantic, pained. The injured one moaned softly, as if remembering. The projection shifted, showing Earth. The red signal blinked brighter now, closer. The hunters were coming here. Emily's voice shook. If they find Earth, they'll strip it, Jake said, his voice hollow. Like they did to those other worlds. Mark slammed his fist against the table. So what the hell are we supposed to do? We're 4 people in a busted RV. The object pulsed again, and this time a new vision appeared, a beacon, hidden beneath the Earth's surface, somewhere in the desert. A dormant structure, buried for millennia, waiting to be activated. Jake realized what the aliens had been trying to say since the beginning. They didn't just crash here by chance. They were coming to find this. It's a weapon. Or maybe a shield. The aliens clicked urgently, one reaching out to press its spindly hand against Jake's chest. He felt its thoughts, raw and desperate. Activate it. Only you can. Sophia looked from Jake to the dying alien, then back. If we don't, Earth becomes the next hunting ground. There was no choice anymore. Guided by the holographic map, they hiked into the desert canyon, leaving the dead RV behind. Hours passed under a brutal sun until they reached a sheer rock face carved with faint, unnatural patterns. Ancient, geometric, hidden by time. Emily's hands trembled as she traced them. This has been here for thousands of years. Waiting. Jake pressed the object into a hollow groove at the center of the carvings. Instantly, the canyon shook. The rocks split apart with a deafening crack, revealing a vast chamber beneath the desert floor. Blue light spilled upward, bathing them in its glow. They descended carefully, the aliens moving faster now despite their exhaustion, driven by purpose. At the chamber's heart was a colossal structure, crystalline, humming with dormant energy. The object in Jake's hand dissolved into threads of light, merging with the structure. The entire cavern came alive, pulsing with power. Holograms danced across the walls. Images of the hunters, of battles fought across galaxies, of civilizations destroyed. And then, an image of Earth, encased in a shimmering shield of energy. Emily whispered, awestruck, "It's not just a weapon. It's a defense system. A planetary shield." Suddenly, the ground above shook. The roar of engines echoed. Helicopters, vehicles. The military had found them. Floodlights cut through the canyon. Voices barked orders. Soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. Mark stepped forward instinctively, but before he could act, the aliens did. They formed a protective line, their frail bodies glowing faintly as the structure's energy surged into them. For the first time, they didn't look like fugitives. They looked like guardians. Jake placed his hand against the crystalline surface, and it responded. A surge of energy shot upward, racing toward the sky. Outside, the desert blazed with light as a massive dome of shimmering energy expanded outward, engulfing the planet in a protective shield. The soldiers froze, their weapons useless in the glow. Above, high in orbit, something vast emerged, a hunter ship, black and bristling, descending toward Earth. But as its weapons powered up, the shield flared, absorbing the blast. The hunter ship recoiled, then slowly drifted back, its silhouette vanishing into the void. Silence fell. The Earth was safe. For now. Inside the chamber, the aliens collapsed, drained of their strength. The injured one let out a final soft click, its eyes dimming. Sophia wept quietly, holding its hand until the last breath left its body. Jake stood trembling, staring at the still glowing shield above. They gave everything to protect us, and no one out there will ever know. Emily wiped her tears, her voice steady but heavy. Maybe that's for the best. People wouldn't believe it, and if they did, they'd only try to use it. Mark looked at the bodies of the beings who had died as fugitives on a foreign world. He saluted them silently, a soldier honoring allies who had fought a battle no one else could understand. When the chamber sealed itself again, the desert fell quiet. The shield shimmered faintly in the morning sky, invisible to most, but real to those who had seen. The 4 travelers walked away changed forever, not conquerors, not heroes, but witnesses, carriers of a truth too heavy to tell. And Jake knew, deep down, that the hunters had only been delayed. They would be back, but next time, Earth would be ready.